Drunk driving remains the main cause of road accidents, and the majority of those who died during the 2023-2024 festive season were aged between 25 and 44 years of age. That's according to the 2023-2024 festive season road traffic statistics that were released by the Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga, yesterday. She also confirmed that 1,427 people were killed on the roads. That's 25 fewer than the previous year. But to talk about these numbers and what it means for our country's road safety, we are joined by Dr. Lee Randall, independent road safety researcher and co-founder of the Road Ethics Project. Dr. Randall, thanks for your time. Good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much, Leanne. The Road Ethics Project basically recognizes that road crashes, deaths and injuries, which are preventable, continuing to occur at the level they do on South African roads is an ethical crisis. So we try to spark conversations that might change minds and behavior in order to save lives and reduce injuries. And I just want to commend our government for so reliably producing festive season stats year after year. They're not the be-all and end-all, but they're certainly a barometer that allows us to compare the same kind of period, same sorts of conditions, year on year, just as a barometer of where we're going as a country.
Okay.
Now, what I'd like to focus...
Let me ask you some questions as we get into the conversation. Okay. So we can sort of dissect the numbers and see where we're going. And we've got the numbers up on the screen as well there. And as we heard from the Transport Minister, these are the figures that are out there. And, you know, we're looking at 1,427 deaths as opposed to 1,452 deaths. And, you know, as cliched as it may sound, one death is too many. And this is very high. Doesn't matter what we look at, but it still is very, very high. Let's talk about it. And what is the level of safety on our roads, and where are we going wrong?
Well, that's a really good question, because the level of safety differs according to what kind of road user you are. Pedestrians are the most vulnerable road users, and their level of safety is atrociously low. In fact, we are underperforming significantly as a middle-income country when it comes specifically to pedestrian deaths. The highest level of safety in our road traffic system is actually for vehicle occupants. But around 70% of South Africans, evidence suggests, walk for at least part or sometimes all of their journeys. And so this is a group that we absolutely have to protect better than we are. In this festive season, around 585 pedestrians were killed. And if we work that out, that means around 13 a day, or one every 33 minutes.
Or 80% of the total number.
And we're way above the international average, where for the world as a whole, around 23% of people killed on the roads are pedestrians. In Africa, it averages 27%. What we've seen in this festive season is our level was 41% of the deaths were pedestrians, and that's exactly the same as the level in the previous festive season. So although there's been a slight reduction overall, we are just not getting on top of the pedestrian death issue.
That is a big worry, and that's something that we need to look into. But where are we going wrong? Why is it such a high number of deaths on pedestrians?
Well, if you look at our road traffic system, it's designed for fast-moving vehicles. So it comes down to how we've designed the system and how we police it. If you look at the average South African road, it may not have a pavement at all, or it may have an inadequate pavement. It may not have separation between vehicles and pedestrians. And our urban speed limits have been recognized by the World Health Organization as way too high. We got a big red mark for that part of our road traffic system in the World Health Organization's latest global status report in December. The other problem, of course, is how people drive, disregarding pedestrians, but it's also what people drive. SUVs around the world are being found to be unusually lethal. They're higher, heavier, and often have a front nose that is not sloped compared to sedan vehicles. and they are particularly lethal for pedestrians. The driver may not even be able to see a child pedestrian because of the height of the vehicle, and child pedestrians in particular are likely to die because of their head and chest being injured by the vehicle, whereas an adult might have a slightly greater chance of survival.
Goodness.
And as we see more SUVs and more heavy vehicles coming onto our roads, we need to ask ourselves, why are we purchasing what in effect is a sort of citizen armored car, or I call it a mobile battering ram? We need to be really cautious about the amount of damage that this particular class of vehicles inflicts, especially on pedestrians.
Listen, it's true. I mean, I drive a big car, but when I see these monster cars on the road, I get even more scared with these bull bars in the front and all of those kind of things. And I mean, not saying anything against them, but it is intimidating. And, you know, one can understand what you're saying. What about the state of our roads? I mean, we did specifically hear the minister yesterday saying that, you know, this is not about potholes or anything like that that's causing accidents, but it's more about drunk drivers on our roads, and that South Africans have a problem with drinking. Let's have a look at that. I know there are two separate issues, you know, our habits with drinking and driving, which is a big problem in South Africa, but perhaps we can just dwell on the state of our roads and the contribution that they are making towards the accident and this high death toll.
Absolutely. We have about 750,000 kilometers of roads. So we have one of the bigger road networks in the world. Not a very high proportion of our roads are paved, let alone have all the features that one would want, such as sidewalks, pedestrian pathways, cycle paths, etc. So the state of the roads is an issue. And you mentioned alcohol. Now, all the issues do interlink. The safe system model of road safety says we can't look at one issue in isolation. If you have an inebriated or impaired driver who's also having to negotiate potholes with impaired judgment, possibly going faster than safe for the circumstances, then obviously the potholes do play a role. They also could, ironically, slow down the traffic, but the quality of road infrastructure is really critically important. And around the world, around 21% of roads are seen as having at least a level 3 star rating in terms of being safe for pedestrians. That contrasts with about 40% of all roads around the world being considered to have a level 3 star rating for vehicle users, four-wheel vehicle users. 2- and 3-wheeler users are somewhere in between. So we're not alone in having infrastructure that is not optimal for all classes of road users. And again, it points back to the pedestrian issue as being something that we really need to get better on top of, apart from the general road maintenance issues.
But look, the bottom line is we certainly have seen cumulative annual road fatalities continuously declining from 2018. Granted, we had a lockdown in between that, and many people were, you know, stuck home, not moving around, not going through provinces. So that did happen, and obviously had a massive effect on the numbers. But this year was particularly busy. I mean, at one point we were saying that the traffic volumes were reaching 853,564 at the peak of travelling on the 20th of December alone. So, I mean, putting all that into consideration, where does this put us? And are perhaps law enforcement campaigns and awareness campaigns working?
I think they are, and I was pleasantly surprised by our figures, given, as you noticed, the extra movement, a lot of movement over this December. Also some storms, you know, some natural events that were also challenging. I think on the whole, we're not doing too badly, but we've got to improve the speed with which we reduce deaths on our roads. Globally, about a 5% reduction in deaths happened from 2010 to 2011 to 2021, which was the first global decade of action. And we've just got those figures from the World Health Organization. Over that same period, South Africa actually reduced its deaths by about 10%. That is because we were starting off a very high baseline. we need to speed up and do better than a 10% reduction over the next decade of action, because the global target is to reduce deaths and serious injuries by 50% by 2030. And South Africa is not on track for that, even though we have a lot of very good ingredients, including a lead agency and a national road safety strategy that says all the right things. But we've got to think on a systems level. We've got to integrate our measures, and we have great prospects of becoming an exemplar in the SADC region and even within Africa if we implement everything that we have on paper.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you. Thank you so very, very much for talking to us with regard to these numbers that we saw coming out of the department when it comes to the unfortunate death of loss of lives. Dr. Lee Randall, independent road safety researcher and co-founder of the Road Ethics Project, talking to us about the 2024 festive season road traffic stats that were released by the Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe, Chikunga, yesterday.